Ghanaian President Akufo-Addo was speaking at an African Diaspora conference in France. And I want you to hear exactly what he is saying, because with the Ghanaian president is really spot on about the continent of Africa and also the African diaspora as well. Let's go ahead and roll that clip.
A return visit on my part to repay the compliments. I think that the things that have brought us here today tell us a lot about the development of our continent of Africa. I'm beginning by saying that the place of the diaspora, the status of people in the diaspora, of the African diaspora, is intimately linked with what happens on the continent. And Africa strong and performing transforms your position and your status here in Europe. But an Africa which continues to live the narrative of poverty, hungry children, people going across the Sahara, going in rickety boats and dying in Lampedusa to get to Europe. That Africa is not a narrative that is going to help you over here. So I think between you and us, our main task is the transformation of the continent. And why do I say so? Just one simple example. The Chinese diaspora is supposed to be some 60 million people. And in the table of states, they constitute the 25th country in the world. They're saying that of the 52 billion foreign investment that went into China in the 80s and 90s that transformed China into what it is today, the manufacturing hub of the world, 50% of that, 26%, came from the Chinese overseas community. And that development of China that has taken place has changed the status and the position of Chinese all over the world. So I want you to take those statistics very seriously, because that is the transformative connection that we want to make with the African diaspora. How to implicate it in the development of the continent. Once we change the narrative about Africa, and we can only do it ourselves, we have to get away from the idea that there's some Father Christmas somewhere who's going to come and develop our continent for us. There is no such Father Christmas. There's just us who are going to be able to develop our continent. So once that mentality is our mentality, that we have to do it ourselves, then our relations with other people become that much more structured and punctilious, if you like. Our relations with France, our relations with Europe. Our relations with Europe is a natural one. You look at the geography of the world, Africa and Europe are natural partners. There's just this small strip of water, the Mediterranean, that separates the two of us. So when you look at that, and you look also at the history that has gone on between Africa and Europe, that is a natural relationship and a natural alliance, but a relationship that has to be different from the relationship that we've had up to now. Why do I say so? That relationship has enriched Europe, but has not enriched Africa. So we need to change that dynamic. And we can only do it by ourselves taking the correct measures for our future. So that's where my focus is. And that's why I'm very excited about the possibility of having this encounter, that we can all begin to speak the same language, the language of cooperation, the language of collaboration, but to a different end. It cannot be right that the continent that has allegedly the wealthiest resources of all the continents of the world is also the home of the poorest people on the globe. That disconnect is not a good disconnect, and we need to work to change that disconnect. So when we're then talking about the need for self-reliance, it is because particularly important is to recognize that we have the resources, we have the youngest population in the world, 25% of our population is under the age of, 19. It's a huge amount of resource, of potential strength. And once we do the educating, we find the means to do the educating of this population and giving it skills, then we are putting Africa on a path of very, very strong economic growth. We can replicate what has been done in Asia if, like them, we maintain the discipline and the correct analysis of what we need to do to move our continent forward. But really, if they've been able in Asia in a generation to transform the lives of hundreds of millions of Chinese, hundreds of millions of Indians, why can we not replicate that same phenomenon on our continent? We can do it. And I have no doubt that those of you here can make a big input into that transformation that we're all looking for. And when we're saying this, and it's very important that we recognize that we're not saying we're turning our back on the world. No, we can't do that. We live on the same planet. We need the association and the partnership with countries like France, with the technologies that they have developed here, their savoir-faire in many, many areas. All those things are matters that we can profitably associate and benefit from. But all of it, always, from an understanding that it is for us to define the relationship that we want with the rest of the world. We shouldn't be caught up in a language or a narrative that says that we are appendages to other people's thinking, other people's policies, other people's volonté. That will not help us. So, Mr. President, we're saying the time has come for us to take our destiny in our own hands. It's now 6 decades since the independence movement swept Africa. And those who led it, did so on the understanding that independence would bring not just freedom as sovereign states, but would also provide us the base for the social and economic transformation of our countries. That still hasn't happened. But the pointers are all very, very positive towards the future. And there are several countries on the continent. I would get into a lot of trouble if I started identifying them here, as I should mention, and I won't mention anyone. But there are several on the continent that visibly you can see are on the right way forward for what we need to do. So thank you for this opportunity to come and speak to you. But in concluding, there's just one thing that I want to say to my brothers and my sisters of the African diaspora in this room. And that is something that perhaps when I hear the way in which there's a lot of concern about the status in France and barriers in France. But there's one thing that all of you should remember, and I hope that you will associate this with me. The destiny of all black people in the world, wherever they are, is bound up with Africa. Let me repeat that. The destiny of all black people in the world is bound up with Africa. And a performing Africa elevates the status of all black people around the world. And non-performing Africa continues the situation where black people around the world are looked at. So thank you for this opportunity to come and speak to you. Let us recognize the responsibilities that we have for each one of us, Africans at home and you in the diaspora. And I think that together, if we have this understanding amongst ourselves, there's a lot that we can do. Madam, that's what I can say to begin with.
Now, there's a few things I want to hit on. Now, when you heard the part where he said that the relationship with Africa and Europe, it hasn't been a relationship where Africa has benefited. Europe is the only one that has benefited from that relationship. And did you see them folks in the room? They wasn't clapping for that. They was crossing their arms. And when he talked about the diaspora, you know, helping build, and they wasn't excited about any of that. See, I told y'all this many times before. I did a podcast talking about the colonizers are not excited about black Americans going to the continent. They aren't excited because, especially when it comes to us, we have lived in the belly of the beast. We've been here over 400 years. We know the murderers, the trickery, the deceit, and the evil of the white supremacists living here in America. We have the history to back it up and the proof to back it up. Very easy to back it up. And we can go teach our brothers and sisters on the continent about the ways of white supremacy. And they know this. This is why they don't want us there. This is why they work on so much propaganda to make, especially black Americans, don't even want to visit the continent. Trust me on that. They don't want you there. They will show you all the negativity. Look at what we reported last week when the Kenyans got upset. The New York Times wanted someone just to report horrible things about Kenya and different things in Africa. Why? They're going to show that to an American audience. They want to keep black Americans away from that. See, they love when y'all say, I ain't going to no Africa. I'm born here. I'm doing this about here. See, they love when you say that because they know here you pigeonholed. They gentrify our communities here, right? They sabotage black business, like those brothers who was trying to buy those TV stations with Nexstar Communications, and they sabotage that deal. See, they know you're not going to be sabotaged in the African nations as a black American. You're not going to be denied any kind of business or a job just because you got locks. They know that. Akon said that whatever business you're doing here, go do it there, and you'll make 5 to 10 times more money at the end of the day over there because you don't have to be sabotaged as you are here. Our children are beaten up in schools with race soldiers. We got the female teachers doing what they're doing, school to prison pipeline. They know over there you're not going to deal with that issue and problem. And you being a black American and also bringing your American education there, you're going to actually get ahead of the native population. But I always tell people this. Don't be the type of person that you're trying to go there and get a job. Be the person that you go in there to create a business to give jobs, right? That's when people love to see you. They don't like to see you come in and taking their jobs away. That's when people get pissed off, and rightfully so. Be an addition, help build something. And because at the end of the day, when it comes to us here in America, let's call it what it is. The Democrat Party here in America and that Republican Party, they both team white supremacy. They are not for our best interest. And the Democrat Party is literally morphing back to the original party they were. It's the Dixiecrats. So you want to talk about the Republicans, the Democrats are turning into the same Republicans. And what they have done to black Americans with all the loyalty we have shown them, and you see what they're doing today, they are so anti-black, what they're doing. So my thing is this, they don't want to change any laws. You having people that's coming in now that's competing for the jobs that many of you want. And then I was reading stories about how they are getting hired and they're hiring them at lower rates. The people who are hiring them are actually breaking the law, but it doesn't matter about that. They're not going to do anything because it's team white supremacy. This particular country is always built off of cheap labor or not paying for labor at all. So for us, at least for me, I'm a firm believer of this. If you want to go down to Titanic, you can do that. But I'm talking about to the brothers and sisters who say, you know what? I see the global vision. I see that we need to connect. We need to build business. We need to do all things like that. Then do that. We're doing things right now, even on a small scale, right? Working and partnering with different people. And it's smooth. It's not really an issue. It don't cost as much money as it would cost here. I mean, it's just definitely a lot smoother to do some things. I guarantee you, I'll probably go set up a bigger new studio in Africa than I could ever do here because it costs so expensive here and do certain things and probably maintain it for a lot cheaper than you would do here. It's just a lot of advantages you have there versus here. Them folks run down there to African nations to vacation, etc. But they want black Americans don't even want to go. And black Americans will fight you on that. You get what I'm saying? But you don't hear white Americans talking about don't go to Europe for no reason. You don't hear Chinese or Japanese Americans saying, no, man, I was born here. I ain't going to no China. They don't say that. You know, you'll hear people that was born in Latin American countries say, I was born here. I ain't going over there. We are the only ones that's talking that stupidity. And I think it's very silly. Get our reparations. I'm all for it. Let's get them reparations. They owe that. I will be team getting reparations debt collector. I'm part of that team. I will speak all day about this. You got to pay what you owe. But outside of that, for me, I'm like the children of Israel coming out, going through the Red Sea. I said, leaving Pharaoh. That's how I feel about the situation with Black Americans, period. It got to be an exodus of us. It really do, because this is a sinking ship. I don't know, you don't see the writing on the wall and how the contempt that they have for Black Americans. Why wouldn't you go? But see, the people that's coming with us to Kenya in October, they're going to see. They're going to see. And their eyes going to be open just as much as my eyes were open last year. And they're going to come back and they're going to tell you exactly what they saw, what they felt, and the opportunities that could be there for them. Because a lot of us haven't even went. That's our biggest issue and problem. I can understand you went and then had an opinion, okay. But a lot of us haven't even decided to go. So that's why I'm kind of excited about seeing these brothers and sisters going on this Kenya trip in October. That's why, you know, for them to have a great experience, because we have to think about that. I definitely think about it a lot, you know, with my family and saying, okay, what country do I need to be in that work well for us? You know, because I'm not going to stop doing what I'm doing. Because this situation here, gentrifying our neighborhoods, killing us for traffic stops, you know, but we watch our own politicians teaching other people how to circumvent the law. But we never told how to circumvent the law. You understand what I'm saying? Even Black police officers. I just seen a story recently of a Black deputy had a white security guard pulling a gun on a Black deputy in uniform. That much disrespect. You see, he's in a uniform. He's a sheriff's deputy, and you still pulling the gun on him as a rent-a-cop? Now, the guy got arrested, but I can cover that story. But that is the amount of disrespect that we have here. And then we're not trying to obtain power here. We just want better treatment. Just treat me better. Don't do this to me. And other groups come in here, they're seeking power. They're not seeking better treatment. That is the issue. So for me, that's why the global vision is more important in a lot of ways. Yes, we got a claim here. Yes, we built this. But at the end of the day, we don't own anything here. We don't own the wealth. We don't own the land. We don't. And nobody can really argue that with me, because we talking about statistical facts of what happens to Black people in America. Our median household income, everything. That's what I'm talking about. Because in order to really get it, you ain't really prepared to do what it takes to get it. You ain't prepared to take your children out of public school and put them in a school where Black people are teaching. Like the one school I know of, and I talked about before, Elevated Places here in Houston. Take your kids and put them in that school. They got 10 spots open right now. They're trying to fill up in that school where you have Black teachers, don't have race soldiers running around. Your children actually be educated right, taught the right things they need to be taught. And with children graduating at 15 and 16 here in Houston, instead of putting your kids in a school like that and making the sacrifices that you must make for your children, no, we still sending our kids to public schools, still race soldiers. That's the things that I'm talking about and what frustrate me. So when some of you come against me, why you want to talk about this? And I'm going to talk about it because I'm looking at the future. A lot of us only see what's in our face like this. You got to see 20 and 30 years down the line, brother, sister. You got to. Because these people here is only getting perpetually worse. And you can't see that, I don't know what to tell you. But shout out to the Ghanaian president. He's spot on with that. And it's time for Africa to do for self. It's time for Africa to stop asking for aid. You got enough aid right there, resources. It's time to cut people off too. And it's also time to not let people come in there and use and abuse you, the Chinese. It's time. But hey, you know, them waking up is a beautiful thing for everybody. It is a beautiful thing. Well, leave me a comment, let me know the thing about the situation with the Ghanaian president, how he called these things out. And it's great that not only him, Paul Kagame in Rwanda, it's a lot of them starting to wake up now to the truth of what's really going on. And why aren't we on that particular level to be there with them? I looked at that crowd. We should have had a big group of Black Americans sitting right there, being the representative of Black America in the diaspora. We got to be at the table.